The row concerns these two rescue boats he mentioned. Both are run by German NGOs. And they have 49 migrants on board altogether. Now, in the grand scheme of things, of course, that's a relatively small number. One of the boats picked up 17 people on the 29th of December. The other one has been at sea for over 2 weeks. The Sea Watch 3 has 32 people on board, including children and teenagers. And it issued a desperate plea last week for them to be taken aboard, saying that a lot of the people on board are suffering from seasickness and stress. Now, the boats are stranded off Malta. Both Italy and Malta have refused to take them ashore, and they've been involved in a row. Malta has allowed supplies to get on board. Italy, meanwhile, its own government has its own internal disagreement over whether or not it should allow women and children to come aboard. So, meanwhile, the Pope here is going above the heads of those governments and appealing to other European leaders to show solidarity, as he says, and let them dock.
Well, as you've mentioned there, the focus very much on Italy and Malta thus far, but what about other EU countries?
Well, this weekend again, we've seen Spain, if you like, set the example and take in hundreds more migrants that have been rescued at sea, some 550 altogether. Who were struggling aboard almost a dozen small boats, were picked up by Spain's Maritime Rescue Service. This on top of another 300 plus in late December, who were also rescued and taken ashore in Spain. The numbers reaching Spain doubled last year to some 57,000, but just to put that in perspective, the overall number reaching Europe by non-legal means was well down last year by about a quarter, according to Frontex, the EU's border agency. Meanwhile, what we have is the EU, of course, perhaps one of the reasons for that is its own approach, very much putting the emphasis on preventative measures, including supporting the authorities in Libya, the idea being to bring down migrant numbers. That, of course, has brought all this criticism, and also leaving individual nations really bartering amongst themselves. Now, the Netherlands has offered to take some of the migrants on board these two German ships, but only if other countries do the same. So here we see the crux of the problem, and the Pope's criticism chimes with that of international aid groups and NGOs who've been saying for months that there's a lack of leadership here and a lack of a humanitarian stance, if you like. These people are not criminals. They're often fleeing persecution and conflict, and under international conventions on refugees, they have a right that's not being respected at the moment.